Homage to our original teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Respected Venerable Masters, nuns, and dear Buddhist practitioners, today marks the second occasion on which we have the opportunity to visit this ancestral temple of Dongdak to share Dharma teachings with you all. The topic we will discuss today is the fairness of karma. As we know, the law of karma is the most fundamental teaching of Buddhism. The entire doctrine of Buddhism, from its most basic principles to its most profound, from the path of becoming a good human being to the path of attaining sainthood, is built upon the foundation of the law of karma. This law is not a creation of the Buddha. Rather, it is a natural principle of the universe. The Buddha was the one who discovered it, who possessed the most penetrating insight, seeing it most clearly among all enlightened beings of all ages. All of the Buddha's vast, magnificent, and profound teaching systems are built upon this foundation of karma and karmic retribution. If we fail to firmly grasp the law of karma and retribution, we will inevitably misunderstand Buddhism, easily fall into superstition, and be unable to apply these beautiful teachings to our daily lives. Therefore, anyone who approaches Buddhist teachings, whether to understand and study, or with sincere determination to practice, must first correctly comprehend the law of karma and retribution. Today we gather to explore how karma represents a strange and absolute fairness governing our universe. Consequently, in this universe, in this life, in this world, and in each of our individual human existences, nothing occurs by random chance. Everything has its cause, and everything we do today will generate corresponding results at some future time, whether in this lifetime or another. For example, our presence here today at this ancestral temple to attend the memorial ceremony for the founding patriarch of Dongdak Temple is not accidental. There must be causes from previous lifetimes. Perhaps 3 lifetimes ago, we were among those who contributed to building this temple. Perhaps 5 lifetimes ago, we were monastics who lived and practiced here. Or perhaps 7 lifetimes ago, we were officials in this region who came to support this temple. Even more humbly, perhaps in some distant past life, we were merely a dog guarding this temple, accumulating merit through that service. And today we have been reborn as humans with the opportunity to return to the temple. Our presence here has roots in the past, and our gathering today also plants seeds for future results. The cause for the future is that something appropriate will happen. For example, today we come here with a mind of reverence and respect for the ancestral temple, reverence for the Buddha's teachings, reverence for the monastic community, creating some merit. This merit can generate many different results. Just like when we plant a seed in the ground, it doesn't just produce one single fruit. For example, when we plant a mango seed, do not think that it will simply grow into a mango fruit, and that's the end of the story. Before a mango fruit appears, what grows first? The mango tree, right? Mango leaves, mango branches, mango flowers, and only then the mango fruit. And the fruit is not the end. There are young mangoes and ripe mangoes, and within the fruit, there is a seed. Thus, many things emerge from an initial single seed, and when the tree grows, it's not just about eating the fruit. When I plant a mango seed, what else do I get? I get an entire mango tree with shade. I enjoy the shade first, don't I? Its branches, if the tree is large, can be cut for firewood. Its leaves fall and can be collected for cooking fuel, or composted back into the soil. Its flowers can be admired, and perhaps even inspire poetry. The sour fruits can be used for dipping in soy sauce with sugar, since we vegetarians don't eat fish sauce. Then there are the ripe fruits, and the seeds can be planted again. So we see that from just one mango seed, we gain many benefits from that planting, not just one mango fruit. In the same way, our sitting here today listening to the Dharma is not just for one future blessing, but many blessings will occur. For example, the simplest thing is that when we come to the temple, we learn the Dharma. Our hearts become pure and virtuous. our character becomes complete, and every word we speak carries moral authority, making our children and grandchildren in the family suddenly respect us and behave well. The blessing we will enjoy in the next life is still unknown, but today, seeing our children and grandchildren behave well, we already experience that joy. Just as when we plant a mango tree, sometimes we haven't even tasted the fruit, but we can already sit under its shade on a scorching summer day. Similarly, sometimes we may not yet be rich or glorious, but our children behaving well is already a great joy. For example, with our relatives or neighbors. As our character gradually develops through coming to the temple, people suddenly trust and cherish us. Then, when we call for a charitable act, for example, if there is a poor, lonely elderly person in our village, and we want to help but cannot do it alone, we call a few more people and say, "That old person's house is poor, his children are far away, he's sick. Let's take turns helping him in his last days, because cherishing the elderly is a noble principle of humanity. So let's take turns visiting him." Previously, if we had said such a thing, no one would have responded. But now that we go to the temple, we have character, we have moral authority. Suddenly, when we call, many people agree and respond, and together we accomplish a charitable act, helping a lonely elderly person. And when that person passes away, they die in joy and happiness. We see that neighbors begin to bond and trust each other more than before. For instance, if we go away from home, we might worry about thieves breaking in. But since we started calling on neighbors to do good deeds together, we can confidently ask our neighbors to watch our house when we are away for work. We trust them, and our house is safe because 3 or 4 neighboring houses are looking out for it. So, we see that the blessing of the mango fruit has not yet been enjoyed, but we have already enjoyed the mango tree's shade, the falling mango leaves. This means that from the kindness of our neighbors, we realize that our coming to the temple today has causes from the past, but it also generates many future results, not simply one. And karma is always a fairness that governs all human lives. Thus, we see that the fair law of karma in Buddhism permeates from the path of becoming a human being to the path of becoming a saint. For example, if we are human now and not yet saints, we are still subject to the influence of the law of karma. If we want to improve our character, there is a way to sow the seeds. Or if we want our lives to be more glorious and prosperous, there is a way to sow the seeds. If we want more power and influence, or if we want our appearance to be more beautiful, there is also a way to sow the seeds. These seeds must be sown according to righteousness and morality, not by any devious means. That is the way of being human. Or if someone wants to practice to attain liberation and achieve the status of a saint, like the Venerable Masters and nuns, there is also a cause and an effect. We have a legitimate method to sow the seeds to achieve our saintly fruit, even if it takes a long time. Even when a saint has attained enlightenment and wishes to liberate sentient beings, it's not as simple as opening their mouth and people listening. For example, an enlightened being with supernatural powers who knows the past and future might be able to heal a terminal illness with a wave of their hand. But don't think that whatever they say, people will listen. If there is no affinity, others will not listen. Therefore, even a saint who wishes to teach sentient beings must still operate within the law of karma, having the right affinity to speak. Thus, we see that from ordinary people like us to the most exalted saints, to bodhisattvas who liberate millions of sentient beings, all are silently subject to the influence of the law of karma. It is not simple. There are causes and effects. Therefore, in Buddhism, precisely because we understand the law of karma, we strive tirelessly throughout our lives. Only those who do not understand the law of karma are lazy and unwilling to strive, or are superstitious, doing wrong deeds yet, wishing for noble and beautiful true causes. It is precisely because we understand the law of karma that we are diligent, not superstitious, and we sow righteous seeds to advance our lives and help those around us progress. For example, if a student performs poorly, do not think that student will remain poor throughout their life. Not at all. If they know how to sow good seeds, within 1 or 2 years, that student will immediately improve their studies. This is very effective. And a good student, by sowing good seeds, can become an exceptionally outstanding student. It's not that there's no path, and it's not just about studying hard. When we have the causes of morality and virtue, everything changes, in a miraculously unexpected and positive way. Therefore, we must understand the law of karma in this way, and today we discuss this. In the law of karma, the premise is this: every thought, every word, and every action we perform creates a result that returns to us, the owner of the thought, word, and action. However, we should note one more thing. Our thoughts, words, and actions are divided into 2 types. One type that does not affect others, and one type that does affect others. Let me repeat. The karmic cause has 3 forms. First is thoughts in our mind. Second is words we speak. Third is actions we perform. Among these 3 karmic causes, we divide them into 2 types. One that does not affect others, and one that does affect others, which will then generate different results. Let's take an example. If we go to an empty field and shout, "I am king, I am king," this is a verbal karma, a karma of speech. Does it affect anyone? Is it related to anyone? No, it's not related to anyone, because we are standing in an empty field saying to ourselves, "I am king, I am king." If others heard us, they would immediately report us to the police, wouldn't they? And the police would either charge us or send us to a mental hospital. But because we are afraid, we go to an empty field and shout, "I am king, I am king." We don't know what we are thinking when we shout. This is a verbal karma that does not affect anyone. So does it have any karmic result? Because it does not affect anyone, the karmic result is very weak. But it still has a result. What is that result? It is the result of arrogance, delusion, and ambition. That is, we are ordinary people with nothing special, but we constantly dream of becoming a leader. And since no one recognizes us as a leader, we go to an empty field and shout to satisfy our ambition and delusion. That cause is the cause of arrogance, wanting to be superior to others, and it has a corresponding karmic retribution. After shouting in the empty field, we return to normal, keeping it a secret from everyone. But suddenly our life is no longer normal as it was a few days ago. Before, people would meet us cheerfully and normally, but after we stood there shouting, "I am king, I am king," when we return and meet people, they immediately look down on us. They see us and say things like, "Where have you been all this time? You haven't been home working." Or someone kicks us and scolds us, always acting arrogantly. That is, they never heard us shouting in the field, but suddenly our merit is lost. Even though no one knew about that arrogant act, our merit is still damaged. When people meet us, they no longer treat us kindly as before. They immediately look down on us. It's strange, but that's the cause that doesn't affect anyone. Now the cause that affects others can have very long-lasting consequences. For example, if we are well off in our neighborhood and next to our house lives a poor person, and we look down on them saying, "They are dirty and smelly, don't play with them, understand? They're stuck here, dirty and smelly, can't play with them anymore." This means we rely on our wealth and have a contemptuous attitude, speaking scornful words that others can hear. That is, our contempt and scornful words affect the hearts of others, making them feel ashamed and humiliated. Then, the karmic result will be terrifying, not as simple as shouting in an empty field. When we truly make others feel ashamed, embarrassed, and humiliated, the retribution can be terrifying. It's possible that if our merit is still strong, we might enjoy it for another 10 or 20 years, until we get old and our fortune collapses, becoming poor and despised by everyone. And if that contempt is severe, our children and grandchildren may never rise up. They may fail in everything they do, meaning several generations of our descendants will suffer. This is not a simple matter of karma, or when we mistreat others and cause them suffering, that suffering will return to us, lingering and difficult for many years. Not simply. For example, if we are an official with power, one day, a poor person who has no home comes to ask us. They ask, "The village is too crowded, please, sir. Use your power, have compassion, give me some help." At that time, perhaps because we are biased or too busy, we dismiss them with a harsh word. "How many tasks and responsibilities do I have to worry about for you? You know how much I have to decide. Go away." That is, we say one sentence and then ignore them, not helping them. The person leaves, humiliated, and continues to endure their leaky, dilapidated house. The karma returns to us in a very tragic way. This means that not in this life, but in future lives, we will always be someone who asks for things, but receives no help, and whose house is always dilapidated and crumbling. Whatever affects others, the retribution returns to us 100-fold. We might slap someone's face, but if we slap them in front of a crowd, later we will be humiliated for a year, enduring a year of abuse and degradation to compensate for that one slap. So we see that it's like planting a mango seed, but it produces thousands of fruits over countless years and seasons. The result is always many times greater than the cause. When we make someone suffer, that suffering returns to us very persistently. Conversely, when we bring joy to someone, that joy returns to us and lasts a very long time. For example, one day we are driving and see someone writhing in pain on the road. The road is deserted. Although we are in a hurry, we are moved to stop the car and ask what's wrong. They say they have a sudden stomachache, and there's no one around to help. We are afraid it might be appendicitis, so we quickly help them into the car and rush them to the hospital. They are operated on in time and their life is saved. Just that one act. And yet our health improves, our lifespan increases. Later, our children and grandchildren, if they have an accident, will be rescued by others. The karmic retribution returns to us for a very long time and in many ways, just from that one act of helping someone. So, we see that it's always like this. One grain of rice sown produces a whole stalk of rice. One mango seed planted after 10 years yields thousands of mango fruits that we can harvest endlessly. That is the fairness of karma. Therefore, we must understand the law of karma deeply so that we can control every action, every thought, and every word in our lives. The best outcome for someone who believes in and understands karma is that we can control ourselves. We avoid evil deeds and diligently perform good deeds. That is the immediate benefit. We may not yet know how many thousands of times greater the blessings will be in the future, but in the present, we are upright and worthy human beings because we know how to control ourselves. And we understand that anyone who knows how to control themselves is a good person. If we want to be good people, first and foremost, we must know how to control ourselves. A person who doesn't know how to control themselves, who does whatever they want immediately, is not a good person. A moral person, first and foremost, knows how to control themselves. When they want to do something, they think about it 3, 5, 10 times before deciding whether to do it, even if they really like it. Knowing how to control ourselves is the initial sign of morality, and it is the law of karma that makes us know how to control ourselves, because we have the wisdom to understand cause and effect. We may like something, but we always reflect and deduce what the karmic result will be. So, it's not about doing whatever we want whenever we want. That is the beautiful outcome for someone who believes in and understands karma. If an entire society consisted of people who believed in and understood karma, then this society would surely be very good and prosperous, because no one would willingly cause suffering to another, and everyone would only wish to bring joy and happiness to others. We don't know where heaven is far away, but we know that heaven surely exists only where people believe in and understand karma, and know how to live well and kindly with each other. That is heaven. In the law of karma, a prominent feature is its fairness. The absolute beauty of karma is its fairness. Some people, when they first hear about the law of karma, are hesitant. They say, "Master, you say that whatever cause, that's the result. But how can you prove it? Because science doesn't know, it can't see it. So how can you prove that good people really meet good fortune and bad people meet bad fortune? Because in our lives, we see many bad people who are still rich, and many good people who are still poor. Although they believe the Buddha's words, that the good will surely meet good fortune and the bad will surely meet bad fortune, they are hesitant and doubtful, but they really want to believe. And why? Because they see that the law of karma is fair, and they love that fairness. Here, we see that humans do not yet possess enough wisdom to see karma operating fairly. They do not have enough wisdom to see it, because only saints can see it. Ordinary people like us do not have the power to see it. But we believe and accept it. Why accept it when we are not yet able to prove it? Because karma is fair, and we love the fairness of karma. Therefore, we accept the law of karma, even if we are not powerful enough to know if the principle is real or not. But because karma is fair, and we are people who love fairness, we accept it, and we will live according to the law of karma, and teach our children and grandchildren to believe in the law of karma. So we see, is that person moral? Certainly. That person is moral because only moral people love fairness, and when they love fairness, they accept the law of karma. But a person who says, "I don't believe in the law of karma, I don't accept the law of karma, because science cannot prove it," that person gives a simple reason. Because science has not proven it, they do not accept it. We immediately understand that this person is immoral. And why? Because this person lacks one thing. They do not cherish fairness. Clearly, they use the reason that science has not proven it to not accept the law of karma. So we immediately understand in their heart of hearts that this person does not cherish fairness. And if they do not cherish fairness, then this person is immoral, because only moral people love fairness. And if they do not cherish fairness and are immoral, then surely this person will inevitably do wrong things. We guarantee that they will do wrong things. When an immoral person is certain, they will do wrong things. For example, if that person has great power and position, we guarantee that they will inevitably abuse their power to oppress others and gain benefits for themselves. Or if that person has no power and is an ordinary person, their mind will always be thinking about how to transfer money from other people's pockets into their own. This is how the economic rule works. It's funny that in economics, there's a very simple definition: how to make money. The definition is, to make money from other people's pockets become money in your own pocket. It's extremely simple, and this is a reality that everyone acknowledges. Earning money means making money from other people's pockets become your own money. It sounds simple, but it's not simple, because money is like blood and guts. Money in other people's pockets is their blood and bones, their heart, their flesh and blood, their organs. You can't just reach in and take it and put it in your pocket immediately. The easiest way to make money from other people's pockets become your own is to be a robber, isn't it? You hold a knife to their throat, then take the money from their pocket and put it in yours, and it's done. But normally, if you want money from other people's pockets to flow into your own, what must you do? You must do something that makes them happy, or you must provide something they want to buy. For example, if they want to buy rice, you have rice. If they want to buy gold, you have gold. If they want to buy a car, you have a car to sell. Then, their money will flow into your pocket. You must also do something, some labor, some service, or provide some other asset. Many people, because they don't cherish fairness, just want to make money by simply taking money from other people's pockets and putting it into their own. So they resort to all sorts of tricks and deception. We call that doing wrong. That is an immoral person, and a person who does wrong. And when a person does wrong, first, the law will punish them. And if the law doesn't punish them completely, then the law of karma will continue to punish them. And when the law of karma punishes them completely, that's when it gets serious, because the law of karma is very fair. There are some things that the laws of society cannot completely punish, but the law of karma will bring them out and punish them, without missing a single detail. It's very frightening. We also understand why humans created laws and established courts for judgment. In ancient times, there were no laws, no courts, but gradually, humans established laws and courts for judgment. Why? Simply because humans are a type of animal that cherishes fairness. And we are human because we have that in our hearts. We cherish fairness. If we humans did not cherish fairness, we would be exactly like other animals in the forest. Other animals in the forest have no fairness. The strong prey on the weak. That is, when a tiger tears apart an animal, it doesn't think about it. It just knows it's strong enough to eat it. But humans are not like that. Because we are human, we have laws and courts for judgment. For example, when one person assaults another, the law and court immediately intervene, without needing to consider who is stronger or weaker, because humans are equal before the law. Therefore, we understand that we are truly human, righteous, and brilliant, surpassing animals, because we know how to establish proper courts and laws. And why? Because we cherish fairness. We also understand that in ancient times, laws were very simple, but they have become increasingly sophisticated. Why? Because the more civilized and wise people become, the more they cherish fairness. How do they become more fair? We can see that a few years ago, the TV channel showed the Judge Bao's Cases series. In that series, we see that the laws of that time were terrifyingly simple. Murder meant execution, right? That is, when a murder case occurred, after all. The concealment and investigation, when the culprit was identified, they were brought to justice without mitigating circumstances. Because at that time, although Judge Bao was very honest, upright, and wise, the wisdom and civilization of humanity at that time were not equal to today. In our time, even if someone commits murder, they are brought to trial to consider the motive, circumstances, and details. It's not like in the past where a murderer would be immediately executed. There are cases like this in Saigon. A boy killed his stepfather. He was immediately arrested because he had nowhere to hide, being young and a minor who killed his stepfather. Then, people who knew the story came to the prosecutor's office and the court to present the reason. The stepfather was too cruel. Since he came to live with the mother, he tortured the mother terribly, and tortured her children terribly. They couldn't learn anything. They just caused trouble and wasted money. The stepfather would say things like, "What's the point of studying? Your mother and I work to earn money. I feed you. Who are you to argue with me? You want to play? I work to feed you. Are you going to quit school tomorrow and sell lottery tickets? Do you hate me so much? You try to be successful, then talk to me." The resentment built up until he was old enough to pick up a knife and deal with him. So first, he was a murderer. But when the court tried him, first he was a minor, and second, he was provoked. The fault lay mostly with the victim, who caused suffering to that family for 10 years. And to deter others, the court sentenced him to a suspended prison term. We see how different it is from the past. Therefore, we see that the more civilized and wise people become, the more they cherish fairness. And the law of karma is precisely that fairness. Therefore, we see that civilized and wise people naturally accept and cherish Buddhism. Because the civilization and wisdom of people who cherish fairness perfectly align with the fairness in the law of karma in Buddhism. This is something we can be proud of. We can be honored by. When we kneel before the Buddha hall, we realize that this is an enlightened being who brought the doctrine of fairness to life. And thanks to this, countless people around the world have learned to control themselves and refrain from doing wrong, only encouraging and allowing themselves to do beneficial and meritorious deeds for this life. We prostrate to the Buddha with all our hearts, without any hesitation, because it is truly worthy. For example, let's look at this case to see the fairness. There was a robber. After investigating that family, he found out they had hidden some valuables. So he took advantage of the family's carelessness, broke in, tied up the homeowner, held a knife to his throat, and cut off pieces of flesh, causing blood to flow, to extract information. After the homeowner bled too much and couldn't bear the pain, he revealed the location of the buried gold. The robber dug it up and found it was true. Then he cut the homeowner's throat, killing him. He escaped the law. No one found him. When he was suspected, the police investigated. But he used a sum of money to immediately stop the investigation and bribe the officers. So the investigation into him was diverted, and he was lost. In that case, until his death, the perpetrator was never found. The secular law could not handle it, meaning the fairness of the world established by humans was not powerful enough to resolve all good and evil in this life. But the law of karma does not forgive, so that criminal escaped the fairness of the law, but he could not escape the fairness of the law of karma. Thus, that criminal began to suffer from illness and pain. That is, a cancerous tumor appeared. Pain exactly in the places where he had cut and dismembered his victim to extract information. Before, he cut a wound on the thigh. At that time, the cancer appeared and caused pain right there, festering and not healing. Then he cut the armpit of the other person, and his arm became numb, unable to move, like a severed tendon, and a painful lump appeared right there. The pain lasted for many years, and he never slept peacefully, always having nightmares, seeing scenes of being chased, killed, burned, and stabbed, tragically. In the darkness, he would scream, but no one could save him. His wife and children slept next to him, sweating profusely, not knowing what was happening. After suffering from pain and nightmares, he eventually died. Is the retribution over? No, it's not over. After he died, he went to hell and was punished there. We know that in the unseen realm, there is a place called hell, where those who committed sins that were overlooked by the laws of this world are punished. When they go there, they continue to suffer burning, stabbing, chopping, and torment tragically. We might be surprised and say, why? He only killed one person, but the retribution was already tragic and painful at the end of his life, and he still went to hell? Why? Because of this, we see that an action does not just cause harm to one individual. It's not just about causing harm to that man who was cut into pieces and had his throat slit until he died. This is what happened. When his wife and children returned home, they discovered that their father had died, their husband had died, and all their possessions were lost. What happened to the remaining wife and children? Unimaginable suffering, right? The pain in their hearts because their loved one died. That cannot be compensated by any price. Perhaps we have all experienced the pain of losing a family member, haven't we? That suffering is extreme, especially when it's an unjust death, a tragic death. The pain is unimaginable. So the suffering of the wife and children cannot be repaid even in countless lifetimes. At the same time, because all their possessions were lost, the children dropped out of school, went into manual labor, and their lives went downhill. The wife had to struggle and toil to maintain the family's livelihood for many years. Then she became frail, sick, and died early. The children were orphaned and helpless. If they maintained their morality, it would be better. But if they had no father and no mother, and grew up in poverty, they might even become robbers. That would be truly tragic. That is, The consequences of killing one person to steal their possessions generate countless bad consequences for this life. Therefore, the criminal who killed one person, even after suffering from cancer and dying, had not yet fully paid his debt. He had to go to hell to continue paying. And after paying his karmic debt in hell for who knows how many decades or centuries, he is reborn as a human to continue paying. He continues to pay, not yet finished. He continues to pay by being someone whose father and mother die early, because he previously caused others to lose their father and mother early. So now he is reborn to continue paying by being orphaned early, then having to struggle and work hard throughout his life. So we see that for one sin, the laws of the world might punish simply, perhaps executing the criminal once or imprisoning him for 20 years. But the law of karma calculates every single consequence that person caused to this life, settling every single detail without missing anything. We must remember the law of karma is like that. Conversely, for example, if, in our life, we once saw an honest, capable person who was not greedy but had no job, and we knew them, so we introduced them. We said, "I know this person, they're my neighbor, I don't know them well, but I see this child is well-behaved and capable, but has no job. If they get a job, they can greatly help their family. And I know you need someone, so please, out of respect for me, hire them for me." With such a sincere word, the person hired that young man. When that young man worked, he didn't just provide for himself, he could support his family, right? Sometimes, if the job was good, he could even support his whole family. That is, his siblings could get an education, and his parents could be at ease. The important thing is the peace of mind every night. That is priceless. For example, if someone in the family has no job, they eat today and don't know if they'll have rice to cook tomorrow. That insecurity constantly haunts them and weighs heavily on their soul. That is terrifying. But when people have a job, they don't have to worry about that anymore. Not having to worry about eating today and wondering what to cook tomorrow brings a lightness that no money can buy. That is what is truly great. That is what is priceless. Similarly, the karmic result that comes to us is not simply that if we help someone get a job, we will win the lottery for 5 or 10 million soon after. No. The joy and good fortune will last our entire life, and our children and grandchildren will continue to benefit. Our children and grandchildren will grow up and naturally find it easy to get jobs, and we will enjoy a peaceful and happy old age seeing our children and grandchildren stable and successful. We might not realize that it was only thanks to the merit of finding a job for someone else that the consequences extended so long and powerfully. So we see that the fairness of karma, when judging someone's actions, calculates every tiny detail. When we understand the fairness of karma in this way, we learn to be afraid. We learn to be afraid and to control ourselves in every thought, every word, and every action. But if we don't fully understand the law of karma, we live carelessly. We can hurt anyone we want and help anyone we want. That's unstable. An unstable person is someone people play with today, see as good, but tomorrow see as erratic, and they don't know how to deal with us. But a person who understands karma always maintains self-control and stability. If we are already good people, we remain good. People come to us, they befriend us, they build close relationships, they feel secure for a lifetime. And that lifelong security is also a great happiness, a great blessing for us. When we make the people around us trust our character and trust our soul, our merit is also immense. Another thing we want to discuss is how the law of karma relates to past lives. Why? Because many karmic results do not have the conditions to appear in this lifetime but must extend over many other lives. As we just discussed, if we plot to make someone an orphan, but in this life we are not orphans, then we don't have to pay the retribution in this life. We have to pay it in another life. Or in this life, we often deceive others and make them disappointed. But now we are too successful, and no one can deceive us. But in the next life, we will be deceived. Or in this life, we have helped countless people to regain their sight, or provided wheelchairs for disabled people. But in this life, we are not lame or crippled, so no one gives us a wheelchair. But in the next life. Now, I want to ask you Buddhist practitioners a question. For example, in this life, we see many disabled people who cannot move, so we buy wheelchairs and donate them. What is the karmic result? Will we naturally be disabled in the next life so that others will give us wheelchairs? No, we will be very clever. We will ask for cars instead of wheelchairs. It's very possible, isn't it? Very possible. Because it means that people cannot move, and we help them move easily. That's the essence of it. It's not that we are crippled so that people give us wheelchairs. That is, people who have difficulty moving, we help them move easily. Then, in the next life, we won't have anything in this life, but in the next life, suddenly our legs will be very strong, our feet will be very stable, and we will move easily and easily acquire vehicles. For example, in a time when people ride bicycles, we have bicycles. When society moves to cars, we have cars. And perhaps when people travel by plane, we might even have planes. Therefore, simple actions that we consider trivial, when their karmic results manifest, are thousands of times greater. So we see that the law of karma is connected to many lives. Therefore, in Buddhism, there is another concept: reincarnation. Reincarnation is the rebirth from one life to another. When we die in this life, it does not mean that we end this existence. When we die, we will be reborn in another life. Therefore, there is another important law related to the law of karma: the cycle of rebirth. The cycle of birth and death. Rebirth from this life to another. However, reincarnation is not simple. It's not as simple as dying and immediately being reborn in another life. No. When we die in this life, our soul, our consciousness, will exist in the unseen realm for a period. Then, when the conditions are sufficient, when we have the right father and mother, we will be born into that family to be reborn in another life. But if the affinity is not yet present, if the conditions are not sufficient, if the right father and mother are not there, we will not be reborn. For example, in a previous life, we created some cause that will bring us certain blessings in the next life. Those blessings include having wealthy parents, a beautiful mother so we inherit good genes, and are beautiful, a very talented and powerful father. And our destiny is to be the eldest child, and the father's family is large, and our father is the eldest child, and so on. That is, the karma we created somehow determines all these conditions. We must wait for those exact karmic conditions to manifest before we can be reborn. For example, if those karmic conditions have not yet arrived, we will continue to exist in the unseen realm, waiting and enjoying blessings there. In that realm, we will also have a house, possessions, and happiness. But we must wait for rebirth, until a beautiful and noble mother and a talented and powerful father, who is the eldest child of a large family, marry each other. Only then, when these conditions are met, will we be reborn. Otherwise, we wait, so we see that it's not an immediate rebirth after death. We might have to wait for 100 years. Throughout those 100 years, we are a consciousness with moral authority, with a house, a temple, living happily, sometimes even worshipped by people. Then, when the karmic affinity occurs, when a talented man and a beautiful woman meet and fall in love, marry, and both families are wealthy, the mother is extremely beautiful, the father is extremely talented, powerful, and has just gotten married and is about to have a child. That's when we come to that family to be reborn, meeting the exact conditions. So it's not always an immediate rebirth. We have to wait for the right father, mother, and circumstances. Or for someone who committed a sin, in the next life, karma dictates that this person, when just born, red and raw, will have no known father, and the mother will abandon them at the temple gate for the monk to raise. The karma dictates this, so they must wait. They must wait for the exact situation where a man seduces a girl, then abandons her, leaving her pregnant and humiliated by her village and parents. And the girl's family does not accept their unmarried pregnant daughter. All these conditions combine so the young girl has to run away, hiding somewhere unknown. And when she gives birth, with the help of others, she still cannot take her child with her. She loves her child, but cannot take it back to her hometown. So after 3 days of birth, she passes by a temple and leaves the child there. We see that it waits for the exact conditions before rebirth occurs. During the time we wait, we temporarily reside in the unseen realm. Our ancestors called it the soul, and Buddhism calls it consciousness. During this time, the soul, the consciousness, when not yet reborn, will find a suitable dwelling according to its karma. A soul with too heavy sins will suffer punishment in hell. Lesser sins lead to being a hungry ghost, wandering and longing for enjoyment. This person, after death, has no one to offer food to, no proper place to live, dwelling in fields or bushes. Sometimes, when a drunken person passes by and vomits, they eat the leftovers because there is no proper food. No one offers them food. Only occasionally, when the temple offers food during ghost festival ceremonies, do they compete with other hungry ghosts for food. But throughout the year, the feeling of hunger persists, even though they have no stomach, just a faint, ethereal soul, still suffering from hunger and deprivation. That is the realm of hungry ghosts, a lesser sin than hell, but still a sin. However, such beings, when they are reborn, rarely become human. They usually become animals. If the soul has more merit, it will find a proper place to eat and live. For example, being worshipped by descendants in their home, where descendants offer food at meal times, or being brought to the temple to be worshipped in the ancestral hall or reliquary. There, the temple offers food and recites scriptures daily, so they also practice and have merit. This means that while waiting for rebirth, they come to the temple to practice, guard the temple, and perform meritorious deeds. For example, during their lifetime, they often came to the temple to listen to the Dharma, helped clean the temple, or participated in repentance ceremonies every half-month. Due to that merit, when they die, if they haven't met the wealthy parents that their destiny dictates, because they accumulated too much merit by visiting the temple during their lifetime, they temporarily reside at the temple. Their spirit tablet is in the temple's ancestral hall. As we see the ancestral hall, they are there, not hungry. The Venerable Masters and nuns offer them food and recite scriptures. They guard the temple. So even though no one sees them, their soul still wanders within the temple, preventing thieves from entering, protecting the temple, and encouraging those who wander outside to be kind and not damage the temple. That is, the deceased affect the living through their minds. For example, when we are alive, if children are mischievous, we tell them, "Children, don't be mischievous, keep the temple peaceful." We use words, but the spirits do not speak with words for children to hear. They speak directly to the children's minds. A child comes to the temple intending to cause trouble, but suddenly the thought appears in their mind. The temple is a sacred place. Don't climb down, go back. They unknowingly return, thinking it was their own thought, but it was the thought from the spirits in the temple. They continue to accumulate merit in this way until they find the right wealthy parents, according to their karma. Then they leave the temple and are reborn into that wealthy family. Growing up a little, they immediately run back to the temple to continue doing merit, continue practicing, continue planting good karma. So there's an intermediate stage where we exist in the metaphysical realm like this, not dying and immediately reincarnating. For those who have contributed to their country, for example, during their lifetime, They were officers, generals, or leaders who wholeheartedly served the people and the nation, never taking bribes or being greedy, always caring for the people. Whenever they saw people suffering, they blamed themselves. If they passed by a difficult road or a village where people had trouble walking, they blamed themselves and reflected, then tried to mobilize resources to help that village have a good road. Or if they came to a village and found that children had to cross a river by boat to go to school, enduring strong winds and waves, their lives in danger, they would immediately try to mobilize resources to build a bridge, instead of letting children die like in Nong Sun, because two old men, weak, were helping them cross. When such a great official, who cared for the people, dies, the karmic law dictates that in the next life, they will be born into an extremely noble and powerful family, grow up to be highly educated, and even become a leader, perhaps a prime minister. But while waiting, if they haven't found the right father and mother, in the unseen realm, they become a powerful deity, with temples and palaces, served by attendants, because during their lifetime they were officials who cared for the people. That's why they become deities. In the past, great officials and generals who contributed greatly to the nation became deities after death, and sometimes we worship them in temples. Even today, it's the same. Don't think that these generals and officials who contributed to the nation are gone after they die. They are in some place, with temples and palaces, and they are powerful and influential in that realm, still served by attendants. Then, when the time for rebirth comes, they will continue to accumulate even greater karma. Those are the beings who have made contributions. As for those who have spent their entire lives practicing, with extremely moral and saintly souls, and who have performed countless meritorious deeds for others, those people are immediately reborn in the heavenly realms. That is a realm called heaven, a realm of only joy and happiness. In that realm, people live together with their minds, not needing to speak. Each knows the other's thoughts, and they all live very truthfully, happily, and kindly. Whatever they wish for appears immediately. For example, a celestial being who likes to live in the mountains will see a mountain landscape appear for them to live in. Or if they like to live in a palace appears immediately. If they like to wear beautiful clothes appear immediately. That is, whatever they wish for, they get, and they live only in love. Everything is pure love. So a person who knows how to practice, whose soul is moral and saintly, and who does many good deeds to help the world, will surely go to heaven. After death, a government official sometimes can be short-tempered. So after death, they become a deity, not a saint. But if a saint is not short-tempered, then they can become a saint. So even if we contribute to the nation and the people, but are still short-tempered, we are only a deity, not a saint. But if we contribute to the nation and the people and our heart is gentle and calm, never scolding anyone, then after death, we immediately become a saint. Karma works this way. When the conditions for human life appear, they begin to be reborn. But how does rebirth happen? Let's understand a little bit. Rebirth is like this. When the time for parents to conceive is approaching, we often return to that home and hover around the parents. For example, when the parents get married and live together, naturally the child's spirit, the consciousness of the child, will already be nearby, lingering and playing, loving its parents. But even when the parents are intimate, rebirth has not yet occurred. The father's sperm enters the mother's egg, and rebirth has not yet occurred. It is only when, after a few hours, the father's sperm combines with the egg and truly becomes an independent embryo with life, that our soul vanishes. Our life becomes that embryo. The soul vanishes, and at that moment, we forget everything about the past. We begin a new life as a very tiny embryo, invisible to the naked eye. It must be magnified thousands of times under a microscope to see that embryonic bud. And we are precisely that tiny embryonic bud. The large soul from before immediately vanishes. We forget all old memories. Our ancestors often used an illustrative saying, "Eating forgetfulness porridge." This means that before rebirth, the underworld spirits make you eat forgetfulness porridge to forget all past lives. So, when reborn, you don't remember. This is not entirely accurate. It's because that embryonic bud is too small and does not yet have a brain, so it cannot record the data from the previous life. Therefore, the data from the previous life is erased. We forget everything, and we only grow according to karma. Growing according to karma means that karma dictates that we grow up to be handsome, intelligent, and healthy. So the embryo just grows and grows according to that. When the child is born, the parents are surprised, "Oh, my child is so handsome." A few months or years later, they discover, "My child is so intelligent." And as they grow up a little more, they are surprised to see a strong and healthy young man. That is all determined and controlled by karma, the development of the embryonic bud of the new child's life. And as we gradually grow in a new life, there are two things. First, we receive the old karmic retribution from the previous life, and second, we continue to create new karma for the next life. Our life is like that. We are here now receiving the karmic retribution from the previous life and creating new karma for the next life. And so, we continue to wander endlessly in the cycle of rebirth, being reborn from one life to another, continuously, from a common perspective. What do we wish for? We wish, oh, perhaps in the previous life, we forgot to accumulate merit. So in this life, we don't enjoy many blessings. This life, I can't become Prime Minister. So my immediate wish is, let's accumulate merit in this life so that in the next life, we can enjoy more blessings. That is a very immediate perspective, but when we understand more deeply, as we gradually understand, we see that humans must continue to wander in rebirth. So even if we are rich and glorious in this life or another, we still feel a certain weariness and hardship. Even if we are kings, if we have to be reborn again and again, we still feel weary and tired. At that point, what is our true wish? What is it truly? At that point, we will have a very legitimate and meaningful wish to stop this cycle of rebirth, to truly attain liberation, to no longer be reborn. It is tiring. Even if we are reborn as officials or generals, it is still tiring, still involves struggle, hardship, calculations, and it is easy to create karma. When we are officials or generals, our power affects many people. Just a moment of anger can create terrifying karma. Just issuing a wrong law can cause countless people to suffer, so it is still hard. There is no real joy in it. Therefore, ultimately one day, we wish to stop this cycle of rebirth and not be reborn again. And in that realm of liberation, we can protect and assist sentient beings so that sentient beings can know what is good and what is evil. And then they can create good karma and progress on the path of rebirth. And finally, they too will end rebirth. That is the most noble aspiration.
Do you all agree with me? Do you agree?
Yes, that is the most beautiful aspiration. Our immediate wish, as we said, is just to pray for blessings for the next life. So we try to accumulate merit in this life. But when we understand deeply, we say, well, accumulating merit is certainly necessary because we live in this world, so we must accumulate merit. There's no other way. But what kind of merit? The merit of being an official or a general is still tiring and hard, and a slight oversight can lead to sin. So let's stop it. And this is precisely the goal of Buddhism. The goal of Buddhism is for us to find the path of practice, to stop the cycle of rebirth, and truly attain liberation. There is no karma that can push us into rebirth anymore, and no karma is powerful enough to make us reborn again. We have the power of our practice to prevent ourselves from being reborn. In that state, we are a transcendent saint. and we protect and assist sentient beings so that they can continue to practice like us. That state where there is no more rebirth, where there is absolute liberation and peace. Buddhism calls nirvana. Nirvana is a state of extreme purity and transcendence, indescribable in words. But it is a state of clear wisdom that pervades the entire universe. And it is a heart of great compassion that permeates all beings. We should not think that nirvana is emptiness. Do not think that understanding it that way is wrong in Buddhism. It is a false view that brings sin. We must understand that the nirvana attained by the Buddhas and Arhats is not emptiness, but a clear wisdom that pervades the entire universe, and a heart of great compassion that permeates all beings. That is why whenever we are stressed, stuck, and kneel before the Buddha to pray, our prayers are always answered. This is because the Buddha in nirvana still loves us, still protects us. He is not reborn, but he always loves us, always knows clearly, and always protects us. But only on one condition. When we pray for something and it is granted, we must offer gratitude. How do we offer gratitude? Does it mean bringing a tray of offerings to the Buddha? No. The Buddha does not accept bribes. How do we offer gratitude to the Buddha? For example, if we are living in a house, and suddenly there is a development plan that cuts through our house, and now the house is gone. The compensation money for the development is not enough for us to move, and we cannot argue with anyone. At that time we are stuck, not knowing what to do. We go to the temple and pray to the Buddha. We say, I obey the laws of the state according to the development plan. I accept moving so that the state can make the area beautiful for the people and the nation. But the compensation money is too little. I cannot afford to rebuild a house for my family and a place to worship and practice. Please, Buddha, protect me. We pray sincerely. When we return home, suddenly a higher-ranking official happens to pass by. That day his car breaks down, and he stops there. He asks questions, and then he hears our complaint. He turns to ask, why is the compensation so strange? We say, because that's the regulated price. He says, no, it's not regulated if the people don't have enough to build. So the compensation price must be recalculated to be fair to the people. It cannot be like this. Suddenly, we escape that disaster. We receive fair compensation and can rebuild our house. So we have achieved our prayer. After that, we must offer gratitude. How do we offer gratitude? Remember Dongdak Temple? Do we bring a tray of offerings to the temple as gratitude? No. The Buddha cannot eat our offerings.
Can he?
The Buddha in nirvana does not eat offerings, right? How do we offer gratitude? By performing some meritorious deed, a significant one. That is, when we build our house with the money, during the time the state is constructing that road, we will donate 10 days of labor for the road, because people will use it later. We will donate 20 days of labor. Or for the construction workers on the road, every morning around 9 or 10 a.m., we bring out a pot of sticky rice and treat them so they have strength to build the road. That is also an offering of gratitude to the Buddha. It means doing something beneficial for the public, making up for what we asked for. Remember that. That is karma, that is reasonable, and that is how we understand the pure nirvana of the Buddha. The principle of reincarnation answers why the destinies of many children are strangely different at birth, isn't it? Why is one child born healthy, another sick? Why is one born into a wealthy family, another into a poor family? Why is there such injustice? If there were no reincarnation and karma, there would never be a satisfactory answer. Some say it's God. God, meaning they say who is rich and who is poor is determined by God. There is no such unfair and strange God, is there? If God has power and loves people, he must be fair. If he loves, he must love everyone equally. He cannot make this child born into a poor family and that child born into a rich family. Then some say, no, being born into a poor family is for training. Why train this child and not that child, spoiling that other child? So there is no answer. That the cause is some God who makes this child born this way, and that child born that way. Only the fair law of karma. It is the law of karma that brings that child to be born into this family. It is the law of karma that brings that child to be born into that other family. And only the law of karma is fair. Therefore, we do not attribute responsibility to any deity for our fate, but we attribute responsibility to each individual. When a child happens to be born into a poor family, we know that the child is a bit lacking in merit, or perhaps initially lacking in merit. And we love them by teaching them to accumulate merit from a young age. That is, from a young age, they learn to love others, to help others, to live truthfully, not greedily. Then, as they grow up, their life will change for the better. For example, if they are academically weak now, but if they know how to accumulate merit, value the monastic community, diligently prostrate to the Buddha, and help their friends, then, naturally in a few years they will become better students. That is karma. Therefore, when we understand the law of karma, we can help our children and grandchildren a lot, changing their lives from a seemingly bad direction to a much better one, very concretely. And this is something everyone is happy about. Another thing is that the law of karma helps us avoid superstition. What is superstition? Superstition is believing in a false cause. We want a certain result, but we believe in a false cause. For example, everyone wants to be rich, but according to the law of karma, if we want to be rich, we must first help others. We must spend 5 or 10 years diligently doing meritorious deeds, building roads, giving to the poor, creating jobs for others. If we endure such hardship throughout our lives, then naturally we will become rich. That is the right cause, understanding karma. What about superstition? Some people say, if you want to prosper this year, at the beginning of the year, if a pig comes and defecates in front of your house, you will definitely prosper that year. So at the beginning of the year, on the eve of the new year, they bring a pig, tie it up so it doesn't defecate, cover it. Then, on the morning of the first day of the new year, they let it defecate in front of the house. Then they start believing, oh, this year I will prosper. That is called superstition. Superstition is believing in a false cause. Or some people believe that if they go out and meet a girl, their business will fail. Is that true? No, it's not true. That is a superstition. Or some people believe that if they constantly beg deities, they will become very rich. No, that's not true. Deities, seeing our sincerity and morality, might help us through a difficult period, but we must offer gratitude by doing good deeds in return. No deity will grant us everything we wish for just because we beg. That never happens, because deities are fair, or in India they have this belief. When someone dies, if you throw their body into the Ganges River, they will attain liberation. Is that true? Never true, because to attain liberation, one must practice at a very high and arduous level. Throwing a body into the Ganges River causes epidemics, stench, and environmental pollution, doesn't it? Those are superstitions. Therefore, when we believe in and understand karma, we avoid superstition and live more upright lives. There are a few things like this. To be intelligent and wise, this is the karmic cause. If you see someone intelligent and wise, praise them, admire them, and rejoice. Or if you see someone studying, help them study better. Help them with books, pencils, pay their tuition. Or if in a previous life you had abilities, use those abilities to help the world without regret. These 3 causes will make you a talented, intelligent, and wise person in your next life. So to have a good brain, you don't need to eat brains. To have a good brain, you need to love people, help others become intelligent and wise, and spread the doctrine of karma to everyone. Then your brain will naturally become strong. Believe that. because that is the only true path. Otherwise, we will immediately fall into superstition. Or we believe this. At the beginning of the year, we go to the temple and pluck a luck sprout, and we will prosper that year. That is also a type of superstition. Why? Because the word luck in Chinese characters has two different characters that sound the same, but are written completely differently. The character for prosperity is written one way, while the character for a young sprout, a budding plant, is written another way. But we hear the word luck and think they are the same. So at the beginning of the year, we go to the temple and pluck all the branches, and the abbot cries out because it's too late. That's also superstition, and leads to karmic retribution. Later, your plants won't grow. Now let's ask a few questions. Why do we see some kind people who are miserable, and some cruel people who are rich? Does that happen? Yes, it does, doesn't it? So we answer this. There are many types of kindness. Don't think that anyone who is kind is good. Some people are kind but passive and indifferent. They don't harm anyone, but they never help anyone either. Such people are rightly poor. For example, if someone curses them, they don't respond. They don't get angry. That person is truly kind. But if they see someone next door writhing in pain, about to die, and they just stand there watching without helping, then that person is truly kind. So such a person deserves to be miserable. Therefore, one must be kind but also good and helpful. So why is that person kind but miserable? Because they are kind in that way. If they see others suffering but don't help, being too indifferent and passive, then their kindness deserves misery. In the case of a kind but passive person, that person is truly kind and deserves to be poor. But if a kind person encounters someone in distress and ignores them, the karmic retribution is even more terrifying. For example, if we cross a river, and this person is very kind, smiling at whatever anyone says, never getting angry. Suddenly, a child falls into the river and screams for help. The person stands there watching, looking around, but doesn't see anyone to help. They also do nothing. They just stand there, not even shouting for help. And the child dies. So, what happens? That person is kind, but in the next life, they will have eyes but be blind, a mouth but be mute, unable to speak, because they saw but did nothing to help. They had a mouth but didn't shout for others to come and help. Encountering someone in danger and distress but not helping them at all. Kindness of that sort leads to extreme misery in the next life. Even though they are kind, they are extremely miserable. So don't think that kindness is always good. If kindness is like that, then it's better not to be kind. Then there are kind people who, for example, practiced in a previous life, but in an even earlier life, they created karma. For example, there was a man who used to be a robber. In his early life, when he was strong, in his 20s or 30s, he joined a gang of robbers who specialized in breaking into houses, holding knives to people's throats, and stealing their belongings. He created countless bad karma. Then, at the age of 35, he became enlightened, understood the Dharma, repented, and entered a monastery to practice. He tormented himself by doing the heaviest work, chopping firewood, cooking, carrying buckets of dirt to fill potholes on the roads. That is, he endured hardship and self-punishment. So in the next life, that person returns as a kind person. Isn't that strange? Because thanks to the period from age 35 to 60, he practiced in the monastery, so he returns carrying that seed and becomes a kind person. But what happens when people meet him? They bully him, beat him, to repay the karmic retribution for the period when he was a robber. This is a case of being kind in the later period, but having been cruel in an earlier period. So even though they are kind, they must first pay the karmic debt. Then the good part comes later. So why is that person kind but miserable? Because of these three cases, you see. The case of being kind but too indifferent and passive. The case of being kind but seeing others in distress and not helping. The third case is being kind but having been cruel in an earlier period. There's another case of kindness that leads to tragic retribution, when one's kindness causes harm to others. For example, Mahatma Gandhi. Someone asked me once, a Buddhist practitioner asked me, "Master, my child asked me this question. In Buddhism, it says, as the cause, so the effect. Why did Mahatma Gandhi of India, who advocated non-violence to gain independence for India by not fighting back when attacked, end up being shot? Where is the karma in that?" And indeed, this is a difficult question to answer. I answered like this: it was precisely Gandhi's non-violence that harmed many Indians. His principle was like this. Once, the British forbade Indians from making salt, monopolizing its production and selling it at high prices. Gandhi called on Indians to go to the beach and make their own salt. The British soldiers stood guard, preventing them from going down. Anyone who went down was immediately beaten with sticks. And the Indians, following Gandhi's words, did not retaliate. They practiced non-violence. The soldiers hit them on the head and they fell down. Then another person stepped forward, not fighting back. Another person stepped forward, not fighting back, and was hit again, and so on. After a while, the soldiers were afraid because too many people were lying on the ground, so they stopped hitting. Then the people behind started going down to the sea to get seawater and make salt. So it was precisely Gandhi's principle of non-violence that caused countless Indians to be beaten and abused by the British, wasn't it? They did not defend themselves. So Gandhi's non-violence caused many Indians to be tortured and killed. Therefore, Gandhi also had to suffer karmic retribution. He was ultimately shot to death. So karma is fair. It's just that we don't see the whole picture. But karma is always fair. We must believe that. Now, why are some cruel people rich? It's because even though they are cruel, they also have a passionate side. That is, if they see someone suffering in the village, they are the first to gather people, a few bamboo sticks from one person, a few tiles from another, to build a house for that person. Even though they are cruel, they are passionate. So now they are still cruel, but they must also be rich first. The retribution for their cruelty will come later. It's the opposite of the kind person who does nothing. This person is cruel but always interferes to help others. Often they speak harshly, but they are passionate. So they are cruel but rich. Or some cruel people also have a heroic spirit. That person might be fierce, with a messy beard, but if anyone in the village is bullied, that person is the first to grab a stick and protect the villagers. If they hear about thieves or robbers invading or causing trouble in the village, that person is the first to grab a stick and block the village entrance, protecting the village. So, is that person kind or cruel? Cruel, but they have merit, don't they? It's precisely because they are cruel but have merit that they protect the village and allow people to live and work peacefully. So later, that person is cruel but rich. It's clear. So we see that police officers are the same. If a police officer is upright, is there any police officer who is gentle? Few. Most police officers look tough, but they have the merit of protecting the peace for the people. So an upright police officer in the end also becomes rich, not because of bribes. They also become rich, and in the next life, they will also be rich. Cruel but rich, that's the reason. As for the cruel person, it's because in a previous life, they helped people, but were arrogant. They helped people but looked down on them. So in this life, they are initially rich but will later become poor, because their arrogance in helping others with contempt will eventually bring retribution. They will be rich but cruel, and then eventually poor. Now a few more points about karma. If we despise something, that thing will disappear. For example, if we have friends but despise them, later we will be lonely and no one will want to be our friend anymore. If we dislike children, we will have no children later. Remember that. Once, a woman came and asked me, "Master, I've been married for many years and have no children. What should I do?" I answered, "Listen to what our ancestors said. Love children, and children will come to your home. Respect the elderly, and the elderly will grant you longevity. If you can love children, not just your own, then naturally you will have children immediately." She said, "I don't really love children. Sometimes, even with my own nieces and nephews, I hold them for a bit and then put them down. I don't love them." I said, "That's wrong. Now if you want children, you must perform great meritorious deeds for children everywhere. That is, in your village, in your neighborhood, in any family that has children. Go and give them clothes, give them a can of milk. That is, express your love for children to many children, and you will have children. Believe that. That is karma. And because you don't love children, children don't come to your home. No one will be reborn into your family as a child. Remember that. Or if we don't respect the elderly, we will die young. So when we meet elderly people, we must respect them, be kind to them, and accommodate them. Remember that. Why? Because elderly people have lived through a life of ups and downs and hardships, and now it is their time to enjoy peace and comfort. Therefore, all of us have a duty to love the elderly. That is the moral principle of Vietnamese life and also of Buddhism. It is always like that. When we go out and meet an elderly person, even if they are difficult or complain a lot, we must always be accommodating, always be obedient, always say, "Yes, ma'am, sir." Remember that. We must always love them, because elderly people sometimes change their personality, sometimes become difficult. But because we love the elderly, we love the moral principles of Vietnam, we must still accommodate them completely. Even if our grandparents are difficult, we still accommodate and care for them. Remember that. What happens to a child who is unfilial to their parents? In the next life, they will have no father and no mother. That is, they will be an orphan. Remember that. So some people are orphans because in their previous life, they were unfilial to their parents. Remember that. And what happens to a person who doesn't love humanity? A person who lives with humans like this but doesn't love humanity, doesn't love people? What happens in the next life? They won't live with humans anymore. That is, they will live with animals, right? A person who doesn't know how to love humans will be reborn as an animal in the next life. Remember that. So, we are here together in this life. Let's love each other. Let's love people. Then in the next life, we will still be human. Remember that. What happens to a person who often cuts down forests and doesn't cherish life? In the next life, they will have no life. What does that mean? It means that after death, they will wander as a hungry ghost, unable to be reborn. Remember that. But a person who loves forests, cherishes every green tree, every sprout, protects forests, that person, after death, will very easily be reborn into a place of prosperity. Now let's talk about money. A person who has money but wastes it will have no money later. For example, if they have money that could support many people, but they spend it on a drinking spree that costs several million dong, or gamble away tens of millions, or give lavish gifts to the wrong people. Some rich people don't know what to do, so they invite a beautiful girl to dinner and give her 1,000,000 dong immediately, giving to the wrong person. Such a person will have no money later. And how will they have no money? Because they will end up in prison, and then they will have no money. So, wastefulness leads to no money. Second, being stingy and not giving charity also leads to no money. For example, if you hide 100 million in your house, but you don't help the poor, then, later, that 100 million will also be lost, because a stingy person will lose all their money, and a wasteful person will lose all their money. Only a person who uses money precisely, who is both thrifty and generous, spending reasonably for themselves, and helping those who deserve help, that person's wealth will gradually increase. That is, they start with little, then later have more. For example, they start with 10 million in a safe, but when something comes up, they spend 2 or 3 million or 5 or 7 million. But later they recover to 20 million, and that 20 million is spent very correctly, precisely. They are both thrifty and help those who need help. Even if it decreases, later it will surge to 50 million. That is, money spent precisely will grow more and more. But if spent wrongly, either wastefully or stingily, the money will be lost. Now let's talk about karma and beauty. Beauty is very important. A beautiful face is very necessary in this life. It is also a source of pride, a blessing. But the inner heart is the cause, and the outer appearance is the effect. A beautiful heart will lead to a beautiful face. Remember this karmic law. Let's look in the mirror and observe our face to know our heart. If we look in the mirror and see a beautiful face, know that our heart has been beautiful recently. But if we look in the mirror and see a face that's swollen, then know that our heart is shriveled, very narrow-minded. Therefore, to have beautiful looks, cultivate inner beauty. Don't waste money on cosmetic surgery. Use that money for good deeds. Your face will be beautiful in a lasting way. If we only focus on outer beauty, we will become more withered later. Therefore, every time we feel compassion for someone, our face becomes a little more beautiful. Every time we get angry, our face becomes a little uglier. It's like that, truly affecting beauty. Every time we prostrate to the Buddha, our face becomes a little more beautiful. Every time we despise someone, our face becomes a little uglier. Every time we are arrogant and think we are superior, our face becomes a little uglier. Every time we humble ourselves, are modest, and respect others, our face becomes a little more beautiful. Those are the most wonderful cosmetic methods. So there is no cosmetic method as beautiful as these. Loving people, respecting people, prostrating to the Buddha, helping people. Those are the most wonderful cosmetics. No plastic surgeon can compare to these methods. So, the law of karma is infinitely profound. No one except the Buddha is capable of fully understanding its workings. As for us, the more we practice, the more we understand. The more we practice, the more clarity we gain. No one dares to boast, "I understand everything" about karma, and each type of karma in each realm is very complex and different. For example, we are in the human realm, and the karma of the human realm is different. But for someone reborn in the heavenly realms, the karma of the heavenly realms is even more mysterious and strange. And a bodhisattva, when liberating sentient beings, has even more secret karma that we cannot even comprehend. It's not that bodhisattvas use magic. Let's not think that a bodhisattva who wants to liberate sentient beings uses magic, appearing floating in the air and preaching. No, that's not how it works. To have everyone come and listen to them, they must also sow certain seeds, according to the right cause and effect. Only then will people come to listen to their teachings. It's not that if they display supernatural powers, people will come to listen. That also has its cause and effect. And we dream of this. One day, when all schools around the world teach the subject of karma to students as the foundation of morality, on that day, this world will be a happy paradise, because everyone will love each other. Everyone will restrain themselves from causing suffering to each other, and everyone will only wish to bring joy to each other. Now that dream may not yet be realized, so we have a smaller dream, that all our Buddhist practitioners, especially those closest to us, the dear Buddhist practitioners of Dongdak Temple, from today onwards, will remind each other of our faith and understanding of the law of karma. We will teach our children and grandchildren about the law of karma, and in this way, we will build heaven in our own hearts, in our families, in our villages, And here at this ancestral temple of Dongdak, today, we have discussed some rules of karma, so that from now on, we know how to steer our lives toward where we want them to go. If you want to be beautiful, love kind people. If you want to be rich, use money precisely. If you want your karmic results to increase many times over, practice generosity and help others with all your heart. We will steer and guide our lives to where we want them to go, and not just ourselves. We will bring this doctrine of karma, this faith in Buddhism, to many others. First, help our children and grandchildren, our families, then our neighbors, friends, and relatives. If everyone believes in karma, everyone believes in Buddhism, this life will become a beautiful paradise. Before concluding, we respectfully wish all Venerable Masters, nuns, and Buddhist practitioners robust health, abundant good fortune, advancement in spiritual practice, and the ability to perform many meritorious deeds. May we all join hands to build a peaceful and happy society, and a flourishing and developing Dharma. Homage to our original teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha.